The next issue, natural gas, fracking. He is routine. You can pull it up right here. 1,000 different quotes of Joe Biden in the primary. Are you willing to sacrifice some of that blue collar growth if it means putting, tens of thousands, maybe even 100,000 of blue collar workers out of a job? What does Joe Biden say? The answer is yes. Well, but if you talk to the media, well, Joe Biden doesn't want to ban fracking. I'm like, but are you just saying what he's saying because he's saying it now? Or are you actually listening? Just because he's saying it now doesn't mean that it's true. Look at the things that he said in the past.
Here's the important thing about the whole defund the police conversation. I'm looking at these stories and they're doing a fact check. Did Joe Biden, and they say, well, while Joe Biden did say he was talking about reallocating funds, his larger platform, I don't care about his larger platform. You know why? Because if Joe Biden's going to sit down with an activist and tell them whatever they want to hear, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what he wants to do. When Donald Trump's like, I'm going to build a big, beautiful wall from sea to shining sea, 30 feet concrete. And then he actually prototyped it. I'm like, this dude's nuts. Yeah. and then what happened? But this is actually really funny. So Trump ends up settling for, bollard fencing in select areas, reinforcing key areas. And they mock him for it. And I'm like, but it was because he consulted with the actual immigration experts who said, we need to be able to see through it. And he went, oh, so we can't do concrete. No, we need to see on the other side. Oh, okay. And what do? They reinforced the key areas because of budgeting issues. They reduced a lot of the trafficking and smuggling. He got what he wanted done. I believe Trump that he really wanted to do it. I think he really wanted a big concrete wall. When I hear Joe Biden, what did he say? He's like moratorium on deportations, decriminalized border crossings. He's back and forth 50 million times.
Taxpayer subsidized health care for illegal immigrants. And by the way, I just want to put this to rest right now. I want people to come to this country. Legal immigration is great, but what liberals do is they try to make Republicans as if we're anti-immigrant. They conflate illegal immigration with legal immigration. It's not true. We want diversity here in this country, right? We want unity through that diversity. We just want a structure that people can use to come here legally and safely. Because right now, there is a tidal wave of human suffering at the southern border. You want to send, one of your liberal journalist friends on a trip, send them down there.
They won't do it.
Well, I mean,
look, Donald Trump gave a speech years ago where he was like, you see what's going on last night in Sweden? It's crazy, blah, blah, blah. And it became this huge...
You do a pretty good Trump. You do a pretty good Trump impression. You should throw yourself into it completely.
I do sometimes. I can do some pretty good impersonations across the board, yeah.
Across the board?
Yeah, totally. I could do a really good Gollum from Lord of the Rings, too. Anyway, the point is, he said last night in Sweden, this became a huge news story where they're like, what happened in Sweden? Nothing happened in Sweden. What Trump meant was last night on Fox News, they did this documentary on Sweden. And so he's just speaking off the cuff. He's speaking really quickly. And they take everything he says literally. So I decided I'm going to go to Sweden. So me and my friend Emily, who is now doing a lot of the SCNR reporting for one of my other companies, we decided let's fly to Sweden and let's go around and film and interview people and see if it's really as bad as many of these people are saying. I ended up getting inundated with a bunch of leftist journalists saying, don't do it. Don't go. I ended up raising like $8,000 in a day because a bunch of conservatives were like, go do it. We want to see a journalist actually go and cover it. Because I was like, I'll go. I'll totally go.
Cover what? Explain. Help
Sweden.
me.
Just like this idea that there was the idea that immigration had caused rampant crime in Sweden and asylum refugees.
Yeah. Oh, right. Got it. I understand.
So I was like, I'll go check it out. Right. I ended up raising a total, like at the end of the whole trip, like $20,000 or something throughout the trip. People were donating. But I got all these leftist journalists DMing me, people I used to work with saying, don't do it, don't go. I used to work for Vice, right? Vice would go on the ground in these countries. Vice published a documentary from ISIS territory. And I got guys from Vice hitting me up saying, Tim, don't go to Sweden. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, this is what I literally worked with you guys like 2 years ago. We used to do this all the time. I'm doing literally what we always do. No, don't do it. It's a lie. These journalists not only don't want to go there, they want to stop other people from going there. They don't want you to go there and film the truth and say, here's what's happening on the southern border. They want the narrative that they can use. I don't know why, because I can't imagine they're gaining anything from it. It's like a feel-good tribal thing, I guess.
Well, here's the thing. So this is I talked to some of the union leadership. I feel like I was the first Republican to show up to the union, AFL-CIO board. Got the building trades there and the government union guys and the AFL-CIO board. And that's what I tried to explain to a lot of the building trades guys is that not only does illegal immigration undercut your wages and make it more difficult for you to find a job, what the PRO Act does, if you look at the PRO Act, which is you hear Joe Biden and Connor Lamb talk about it all the time, it's going to be the future of union membership here in this country. Well, the PRO Act affords union protection to illegal immigrants.
Wow.
So the lion's share of economic experts in this country will say that the PRO Act would be a wet blanket on the economy, right? While simultaneously flooding union halls with illegal immigrants that are all of a sudden afforded
legal protections.
Yeah. What do you think that's going to do to your already existing members who are having trouble finding a job? It's going to undermine their ability to make a living. Yet Democrats push the PRO Act as if it's pro-union. It's not pro-union. It actually flies in the face of what Davis-Bacon was created to protect. And so I take this message to the rank and file union guys that it is by and large not good for them. Because part of my job is to protect their ability to earn a living and put food on the table for their family. And I get criticized for it because part of me feels like the narrative is king, right? And the idea that the Democrat Party is the party of unions. I don't know that that's. I mean,
maybe used to be
the building trades guys. It used to be.
Do you see what happened when they proposed the Green New Deal? And I think it was the AFL-CIO came out and threw up in their mouths when they read it. It's going to eliminate the energy sector jobs. I think it was the AFL-CIO. I'm not sure, but a bunch of these unions were like, "Whoa! You're straight up saying you're going to shut our jobs down. Why would we support that?"
Well, that's what, when I say Pennsylvanians have short memories, this is what they see. They don't want to lose those jobs. The oil and natural gas industry in Pennsylvania is a centerpiece of our economy.
And did you see what Hillary Clinton said was one of her biggest regrets in the 2016 campaign? I think it may have been her biggest regret when she said that we were going to shut down all these coal jobs.
Oh, yeah. Well, Joe Biden essentially said the same thing.
Exactly.
He said, if you can go down in a mine shaft, you can learn to code.
He actually said learn to code?
I'm pretty sure he said, if you can go down 3,000 foot in a mine shaft, you can learn to code. I look it up. I look it up. Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Right.
Wow, no kidding. Sheesh.
Yeah. Tells coal miners to learn to code.
Wow.
Sean's a propagandist. No, I'm not. He said it. And so these jobs. I come from my grandfather, who's a second father to me, for God's sake, was a lifelong union Democrat. These jobs are legacy jobs to these people. Their father was a coal miner. Their father's father was a coal miner. And all of a sudden, you have a politician, who is supposed to be elected by the people to protect and advocate for them, saying, you know what, this legacy, who cares? Just learn the code, bro.
Dude, it's like this. Look, I got to show this video, man. This video, I don't think I'm going to play it, but this guy had his family's business. His parents started this business. They burned it to the ground. And these people who are marching around destroying these things, who get this defense from Democrats, who pretend like it's a peaceful march and the media protects them, don't understand. They're not just attacking this guy. It's his legacy. It's more 100%. Than that. It's his dream for his kids. I was looking at buildings. I'm trying to expand the business. We've got some big plans. We're about to do it. It's awesome. I'm really excited.
1 million subscribers.
Yeah, I hit 1 million subscribers.
Hardcore, man.
But I do have multiple channels, so it's like, it's more. But I'm looking. I went to this one building, and there was a guy there who was like in his 80s, and he wanted to sell it. And I asked him, I was like, why do you want to sell it? He didn't have any kids. It actually made me feel really sad. He built this building over decades as his building expanded, like a makeshift jigsaw puzzle of just pulling on pieces. And I told him, I was like, I want you to just record a story and tell a story about how you built this and like what the building was, how it came to be. Just like, give me 10 minutes. He didn't want to do it. I don't think he has to. But to me, I take value. I really value the accomplishments of humanity, where we've come from, where we're going. I think about the idea that we're standing on the shoulders of giants.
I say that all the time. I agree completely.
And I look, I go to New York. You see all these bridges over the Hudson, over the, I think it's the East River, not the Hudson. Hudson's the tunnels. Well, they have some bridges, but you see all these bridges. I have no idea how they got there. I woke up one day and walked in, and I can walk across this river, this big bridge. People are skating on it. They have no idea the blood, sweat, and tears that went in to making sure that they would have shade. You know the saying, you plant a tree whose shade you'll never sleep, you'll never get to sit under. These, like so many people, millions of people, just woke up one day with the Brooklyn Bridge. They didn't have to build it. No work went into it. They just one day have it, and it's just there for them. That's legacy. So when you see to go back to the coal miners, to being told learn to code, it's like Joe Biden may as well have burned down their family business. That everything that was their, I couldn't imagine someone, here's what your family is, here's what your family's done, here's the history, here's what you're proud of. Screw it. Go be a computer programmer in New York.
That's exactly what he's saying. That's exactly what he's saying.
You know what's really crazy about this learn to code thing? It was a meme, and it got conservatives banned on social media.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, and there's Joe Biden out there telling.
Wow, I didn't even know Joe Biden said that. And this is.
know.
But this is what's crazy about this is this story is from when is this from?
The Hill,
2019.
Yes, he said it on the campaign trail.
December. It's from last December. The learn to code thing. I mean.
We're going to phase out. He also says we're going to phase out all fossil fuels.
December 31st, 2019.
Yes.
The learn to code wasn't the learn to code ban fiasco like way before that?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was. Wow.
Wow, dude, talk about nightmarishly out of touch.
Well,
That creeps me out.
I mean, you wouldn't believe the things that he says. But I mean, people
I would at this point.
People don't believe it. Again, this is why fundraising is so important, because the media should be telling people this, but the media does not. You would think the media in Western Pennsylvania would report on this, given that tens of thousands of people work in this industry. They might want to know that these are the positions that Joe Biden espouses. The fact that AOC is now Connor Lamb's boss on this energy environmental task force is kind of relevant.
Kamala Harris, she supports the Green New Deal. I'm pretty sure.
She co-wrote it.
Oh, there you go.
She co-wrote the bill.
It's just, look, when AOC first got elected, the first thing I did was I laughed. These establishment Democrats getting comeuppance, these young upstarts kicking them out. I'm like, good. They sit around, they get elected, they do nothing. So you know what? He did. Joe Crowley. He was arrogant, and he lost for it. So I laughed. I looked at a lot of her policy positions, and I'm like, there's a decent amount I actually agree with. Prison reform and some other things. When the Green New Deal was first being talked about, it was framed in such a way that I thought was awesome. Here's what they did. They said, would you support government investment into green technologies to help offset carbon emissions? 86% of people were like, yeah, of course. Like, look, if the government's, got money for grants and these programs, it sounds like it's a good idea. So when the Green New Deal is first announced, it's like the idea is to repair our infrastructure and develop new technologies and green technologies to help make our country more energy independent and efficient. I'm like, that sounds great. And then she released it. And I was like, what is this garbage? Money for people unwilling to work, farting cows, getting rid of planes.
Yeah, no planes, no meat.
But the whole second page, or at least a large portion of it, was talking about racial equity payments. And I'm like, what does that have to do with developing new technology to improve the lives of Americans?
The greatest, look, the Green New Deal is obviously insane, okay? It just is. As a policy proposal, as a standalone policy proposal, it's insane. It's not reality. Again, my position on energy is all of the above. Where we can use renewables, let's do it. Let's invest in it.
Nuclear
right?
energy.
Nuclear energy is also something that we have to look at. But you want a case study in a country migrating exclusively to renewable energy sources is Germany. Look at what happened in Germany.
What happened?
Their energy costs skyrocketed. It was a disaster. Their people said no more, and they've had to sort of transition from renewable energy sources to now natural gas.
You see what happened in France when they said we're going to impose a tax on gas.
There was a borderline. People were like, there was a borderline revolt.
Riots for like 2 years.
Yeah, there was a revolt. I know.
That kind of bums me out. I don't like the idea that we as a human civilization need to progress. We need to do better, and we get stuck. And it's
have you ever been on a hydraulic fracturing rig?
I have not.
I see where you're going with this. It is like this is like Star Trek Enterprise type stuff. Like when you talk about like getting better. Horizontal drilling, the way you got to go. Like, come out to Western Pennsylvania. We'll go take a tour of one. It'll blow your mind how precise they are. Some of these companies, like Penn Energy Resources, has a zero methane tolerance, right? And methane's methane's bad, and it is, right?
Yeah.
They're so precise. They tolerate zero methane emissions, and they're so advanced. And it was precisely that market-based innovation, right, that has allowed us to be a leader in decreasing our carbon emissions, right? And every day, I mean, so I say all this to say it's market-based innovation that will lead the way to more cleaner and more renewable energy sources, not government monopoly.
No, that's what that was my point.
Oh, well, I co-opted your point.
Yeah. No, the general idea is that we develop this technology, and then the government wants to make sure that it's easier to just keep everything frozen than it is to actually allow the market to change with new technologies and new development. I think there's obviously extreme ends. We can't just have, archaic jobs because people are like, the job is more important than innovation, and we can't have learn to code. There's got to be, competitive, gradual change to develop new technologies. One of the biggest challenges I see, though, nuclear energy seems very promising. It is one of the highest return on energy investments. It's clean,
zero carbon emission.
Boom, and the left opposes it.
I think they oppose it just because it gets a bad rap. I mean,
right.
You watch something. So my dad works in nuclear energy. He's like one of the smartest guys I've ever met. He's amazing. But I watched Chernobyl, and I'm like, oh man, this is so great, Dad. I love this. And he was like offended when he watched it. He's like, this is not how nuclear energy works. This is why nuclear energy gets a bad rap, because it's sort of, I mean, Chernobyl was obviously a catastrophe. It was a disaster. I mean, there was human error. I mean, all sorts of bad things happened. But and I'm certainly not trying to just brush that off, right? But the nuclear energy, our all nuclear navy, right, that we've had in this country for a long time, there's not been one single incident, not a single incident since the inception of our all nuclear navy, because in the United States we've got a real great system of checks and balances. But when you talk to a lot of the energy executives, and say in Western Pennsylvania that are in natural gas, it's a simple dollars and cents issues for them. They say like, well, I just can't. Why build a nuclear power plant where there are so many government regulations and hoops that you have to jump through? It's a multi-billion-dollar investment when you can just, invest in natural gas, and it's exponentially cheaper. Kind
of what I was trying to get at too is the government is impeding instead of, I guess, appropriate refereeing. Nuclear energy is being demonized. There, a lot of Democrats, progressives, they say it's bad, it's wrong, but it would be the solution to so many of our problems if we could just do it. Mm-hmm. And that's why when I hear about fracking, we see those videos where the fire is shooting out of the faucet and stuff. I don't believe it.
Did you see that Michael Moore documentary?
Where he said they were all lying? That was crazy. I didn't see it, but I read about it. He got roasted. Because but yeah. I worked for Greenpeace longer than a decade ago. And I learned about their founders. One of their founders, I think his name is Patrick Moore. I might be getting his name wrong, because I think he follows me on Twitter now. He left a long time ago because, and I don't want to get his story wrong. One of the reasons is he supports nuclear energy, and Greenpeace doesn't. It makes no sense. If you believe in protecting the environment, nuclear energy is a great way to do it. But I guess they make money off the boogeyman, the specter of this technology, because of things like Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, and Fukushima. And Fukushima was really bad. But that was a tsunami, so they definitely need to make sure they have security set up to make sure that doesn't happen again. But I ended up hearing these stories. I read about this guy. I read about nuclear energy and how the left opposes it, and I got really confused because it's a green energy, it's new tech, it's extremely good for our country and the world, but they oppose it. Then they come to me and they come with other stories about fracking and all these other fossil fuel operations. And now I just don't know what to believe, because I know the nuclear energy stuff is all exaggerated. Sure, it has its problems. But then when they come to me and they claim fracking is the worst thing, it ought to be banned, it's to be shut down immediately overnight, ban all fossil fuels, I'm like, I don't know if I believe you, man. I don't know if you're being honest. But I don't know what their end game is with banning fossil fuels other than climate change. But if that were the case, would nuclear energy be the solution?
Yeah, well, right. Correct.
I'll add one more point. The former chief of staff for AOC straight up said the Green New Deal is more about changing the economy.
It is not. Yeah, it's not about green energy. It is about control. It's about changing the structure of our country, right? Changing the economy. That's what it's about. And you're right. Her chief of staff said it.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify, and we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.